Beetlejuice is the latest Tim Burton film, so today let's rank all 20 of his movies from worst to best. Hey everybody, my name's Justin here. I try to watch everything that hits theaters and on streaming services. If you guys are like me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell notification for more up-and-coming content. Leave your list down below. How would you rank all 20 of the Tim Burton films from worst to best, including the newest one, Beetlejuice? Coming in last place, Dumbo. Tim Burton's version of Dumbo is a misguided attempt on recreating the charm from the 1941 Disney animated classic. A lot of what made that film work is really absent within this film. There's no charm, there's no life to this movie, there's no magic feel to this film. While Tim Burton gives us some nice visuals in terms of the circus and Dumbo and all those flying moments, bogged down by a convoluted plot and all these characters that really feel underdeveloped and never really amount to much when it comes to their connection with Dumbo. There's no emotional connection between Dumbo and his mother. Even in the beginning of this film, the beginning of the original animated film had that strong emotional connection which drove the rest of the movie. That is ripped away from the beginning of this film. It's a disappointing Disney live action film that failed to recapture that charm from the original movie. Coming at number 19, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I really like the story for this film. I've read the book and I like the characters within here and how in the home for peculiar children, they have to live the same day over and over again. The film's pacing is terribly fast in the beginning. We can't get situated with Jacob's story and his connection to his grandfather and the mystery of these peculiar children. It's so fast in the beginning and then it halts in the middle half of this film. It becomes a storyline so focused on these peculiar children and their powers, which I found to be all interesting, and then you have these monsters at the end that feels like a completely different story and tone for this film, and that's within the book as well. But it's a jarring transition for the rest of the movie with Samuel Jackson and all of the monsters at the end of the film threatening the peculiar children's way of life. So I like the exploration of the kids and the way that they live with Eva Green's character, Miss Peregrine, but the film has such a bad pacing issue to it, and many times it becomes a boring film, and then at times it moves really fast and there's not enough development for our characters. It's really all over this place. I enjoyed the book, but there's a lot of things about this movie that just do not match that book. Coming in at number 18, Alice in Wonderland. This is just a CGI mess of a movie. Nothing about it feels magical. Nothing about it feels like any sense of wonder. The film has such a dark, dread look to it that you can't capture that magical feel of Wonderland. When you look at the animated film and the Lewis Carroll story, there's a lot of moments where you feel like you're in this world, and even though there's the Queen of Hearts after Alice, there's a lot of magical moments and moments that she encounters these characters and connects with them. And although this movie is set differently from the original Alice in Wonderland animated Disney film, that sense of dread does not work so much within here. I know that it's a different time period for Wonderland after Alice had already been in there, but it's hard to really feel that charm of this movie. It takes a long time in the beginning to actually get started and get Alice to Wonderland. All of that stuff in the beginning, I really could care less about. And then her in Wonderland going on this journey, it's a nice development for Alice. And all the other characters in Wonderland trying to have her understand that she is the one that's going to defeat the Jabberwocky and the Queen of Hearts. It's not a film that I'm overly attached to, and the storyline is a bit messy in the middle half of this film, especially when you start to look at some of the backstory for the Queen of Hearts. That feels like it's all a step in the wrong direction. Coming in number 17, Planet of the Apes. Before the Planet of the Apes films with Andy Serkis, we had a Tim Burton film from the early 2000s that I used to watch so much as a kid. I understand it is bad, but it's got a special place in my heart. I really enjoyed watching this movie as a kid and watching Mark Wahlberg and all of the apes. I thought it was really great. As an adult, I do see its flaws, but I will say I enjoy this movie still. What works for this movie is the world building within the apes and the planet that they live on, and seeing the ins and outs of their daily lives and how the humans are treated within here. And seeing that conflict between humans and apes is a nice development for this story. There's a lot of great makeup for all of the humans playing the apes, and there's a great sense of fear when it comes to main ape played by Tim Roth. Tim Roth gives a really terrifying performance within here. There's a lot of great action in here as well, but it's got a disjointed story. It's really goofy at times. And there's moments that just do not make sense, especially the end of the film. I enjoy the movie as a kid. I understand its flaws as an adult, but I still enjoy watching this movie. Coming in at number 16, Dark Shadows. This is the one that I've watched the least for Tim Burton's films, and it's one that I'm not that impressed with. It looks great. I love the gothic vibe to this movie, but it's a film that's trying to balance a comedic tone and at times a bit goofy with Johnny Depp, but then at times it's trying to be more bloody and violent and scary, and just does not find that common ground. Times it's goofy, times it's scary and violent, and I just don't know what Tim Burton really was going for within this movie. That's the biggest issue, is that you really can't connect with the story. You don't feel the intensity. Because a lot of the tones are just being juggled around, it's hard to feel any sort of connection to it. But the performances from everybody in here, Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Chloe Grace Moretz, everybody works well within this film. But the biggest issue is its story and the characters' connection to it. It's very wonky at times, and the tones clash with each other, and it's really hard to understand what Tim Burton was going for. Coming in number 15, Big Eyes. This is a film that has a strong emotional storyline for our characters. Watching Christoph Waltz taking all of the credit for his wife's work and seeing her try to grapple with all of that and wanting that recognition, that's a strong aspect to the film. But a lot of it does end up feeling repetitive and overused. I love the distinct style to her art and how it does feel like a Tim Burton film and a more deep personal story compared to some of his more magical films he has created. It's a very grounded approach for a Tim Burton film, and I love that development for our characters and seeing that strong, emotional, very personal storyline push its way throughout the film. All the performances are great. Christoph Waltz is very manipulative within this film, and Amy Adams shy, quiet, and allow for Christoph Waltz to take control of these situations. But seeing her naturally grow throughout the film is something that you can root for and just feel attached to. So I really like that step away from the more odd creatures that he has worked with, like Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands. I like this more smaller film. Coming in number 14, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I do gotta admit, I was quite disappointed with Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I had really high expectations going into this film, and I really did like seeing Michael Keaton return to the role of Beetlejuice. He's able to tap into that role, bring that energy out for this character. I like the addition of Willem Dafoe and Jenna Ortega. The storylines all over the place. You're juggling so many different storylines within here, and it doesn't feel like these characters have that chance to become very strong within this film. A lot of the characters, they kind of just wait around for something to happen instead of like naturally developing these characters throughout. The visuals are great. At times it feels like it's not so much Tim Burton rather than just a typical director directing this movie. Some of the costume designs, the makeup works, and it feels like a Tim Burton film, but most of it just feels pretty generic. I like the movie, but I was disappointed with it. Coming in number 13, Frankenweenie. The short for Frankenweenie is one of his original works, and it was nice to see him bring that short into a feature-length film. I really feel that connection between a young boy and his dog and the love that they had for each other, and that drives him to experiment on the dog and bring him back to life. I loved all of the references to classic horror movies and seeing some of the other films that have influenced Tim Burton within this movie. It's got your classic Tim Burton look with the characters with the big eyes. The stop motion animation is well done. Once we get the dog back to life, it feels like it's slowing down. A lot of it works in the beginning and the end of the film, but that middle half is where once that dog comes back to life, it's really halted and it slows down. I like that strong relationship, and there's a strong emotional core to this movie as well, and seeing how far a young boy will go to bring his dog back to life because he absolutely loves him. I feel that within this movie. Just at times it does move slow and it's not so much exciting. Coming at number 12, Corpse Bride. This is another quick stop motion film from Tim Burton, and I like the characters within here. It's a very simple story of Victor and a corpse he accidentally asks to marry, and the other woman that he's supposed to marry, Victoria, seeing the exploration of the underworld and all of the dead creatures and that position that Victor is in. He wasn't madly in love with Victoria in the first place. It allows for that storyline to have that growth for him and Emily, and despite her being dead, you do see a connection grow since he was not so much in love with Victoria in the beginning of this film, but then also look at his connection with Victoria as he was supposed to marry her. It's got some fun moments. I like some of the characters and some of the songs within here. The stop motion works well. And Victor goes through a lot of changes as well. Very quiet, held back in the beginning of this film, and he does become a much stronger character throughout. Coming at number 11, Big Fish. I remember watching Big Fish when I was a kid and not fully understanding this movie. I do remember some of the more fantastical moments within here as a father is telling his story to his son. And as an adult, I really appreciate that father-son connection in here. But I love how this film was presented and having the father tell the story of when he was younger and his son not believing so much of all these storylines. We see it from his point of view and what it meant to him. Even if some of it feels like it's unbelievable, that allows for him to really bring out what a lot of his past meant to him and all of the relationships he developed, how strongly it meant to him. But coming in at number 10, Sweeney Todd. I remember when Sweeney Todd came out when I was in middle school. I didn't watch it then, but everybody was talking about Sweeney Todd. And it took me some years to actually sit down, fully watch this movie. It's violent. I love the look of this movie though. The costume designs, the set location, everything is spot on. The songs are great too. It's well choreographed. The songs are really interesting and it's very violent. And I really like this movie now that I've seen it a few times. Johnny Depp goes all in with this role. Him and Helena Bonham Carter are very strong within this movie. There are many characters within here, and at times a few of them feel a little bit unnecessary, and some of the humor falls flat within this film. It's so overly violent and dark that anytime that they try to approach some comedy within here, it does not work, and I'm not there for it. I'm here for the violence and the dark tones within this movie. But the film gets very depressing at times, and it's very shocking. And honestly, my first introduction to Sweeney Todd was the moment with Andy from The Office and his little bit.
The tale of Sweeney Todd.
Coming in at number 9, Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow is a moody, dark, gothic film. It gets pretty violent at times, a lot with chopping off the heads, but what works so well with this film is the environment and how it does match the headless horseman and the dread surrounding that character, and the location. Everything is dimly lit and it's dark and it's grimy looking. But the problem with some of this movie is Johnny Depp is a little bit goofy within this film, and he is coming from, as he's investigating the headless horseman, some of the choices that Johnny Depp makes a bit silly at times and does not match some of the tone for this movie in regards to the headless horseman and all the other characters within this film. They take it very seriously, and he is coming into this investigation with all of his gadgets, and everybody handles it a bit differently. That's my biggest issue with this film is honestly Johnny Depp. He is very different within this film compared to what you expect for the storyline and the dread and the tone within this film. It feels a bit off at times. Coming in at number 8, Mars Attack. Mars Attack is the silliest Tim Burton film. It's the funniest one as well. It's got your great vibe to it, paying homage to the 60s sci-fi films. It's way over the top. You got Jack Nicholson dialing a really weird performance. The CGI for the aliens look bad, but that was its purpose. It's got a lot of funny moments. When I watch Mars Attack, it's just a fun film. It's not going for something serious. It's not going to be a grounded approach to Martians. It's just a really enjoyable film, and I love the tone and the charm that he was able to capture within this film and paying homage to the 60s. I like that it's distinct style to it, but also feeling like a Tim Burton film. Coming at number 7, Ed Wood. Ed Wood is such a strong movie. It's one of the films I have seen the least in regards to the other Tim Burton films, but it has a lasting impression on me. Johnny Depp gives a really good performance, and when you look at Ed Wood and all of his films, they're bad. But you see what filmmaking meant to him, very similar to The Disaster Artist. You took Tommy Wiseau and how he created The Room, and that wasn't very good. But we see his influences and we see his motivation. That's what Ed Wood was, and that's what makes this film so strong, is that personal approach to this character, really breaking him down, understanding his motivations, his drives, what he wants to accomplish. And with Johnny Depp's strong performance, you have a very deep personal film, and it's a story that you can root for, and you could look at Ed Wood as a different person based on this movie. I love its distinct style to it. It's a well-acted movie with some great directing from Tim Burton. He understood the assignment for this film. He understood what he needed to accomplish, and capturing Ed Wood as a person and all of his beliefs and all of his motivations and what he wanted to accomplish, and in filmmaking, that is such a nice look at a person when you have all the other movies that he has created that haven't been regarded as the best ever made. Coming in at number 6, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Please do not pause this video and turn it off. I understand people have this at the bottom of the list, but I absolutely love the story of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I still think that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is the more superior version of the film. But as someone who has read the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory book year after year to my first grade class, I love how true this movie was to that book. From the Oompa Loompas and the storylines throughout, a lot of it is true to that book. There are some new additions to the movie compared to the book, but I really like how Tim Burton was able to create the mystery of the Chocolate Factory. And it's been closed for many years, and seeing that reopen, you have a lot of mystery of Wonka within here. And he's silly. He's a bit goofy at times. Johnny Depp seems like he's having a really good time, though, portraying Willy Wonka. I like the songs in here. The songs are in the book, and I like a lot of the visuals and what they were able to accomplish going throughout the Chocolate Factory. I really adored the storyline of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, so that's why it's so higher on the list compared to other lists who put it much lower on their list. I like the story, I like the characters, and I really like Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka. Visuals are great, and you're able to capture a larger sense to the Chocolate Factory compared to that original Gene Wilder film. And you're able to feel like it's going on this adventure throughout the film. It doesn't have that magical feel compared to that Gene Wilder film, but I really appreciated how it was very similar to the book, and the visuals were great and a lot of fun performances. I love this movie. Coming in number 5, Batman Returns. As a kid, Danny DeVito as the Penguin terrified me, and I did not like watching this movie. I watched a lot of superhero movies as a kid, but this is one that I shied away for many years. But it's a very strong, more darker approach compared to the original Batman movie with Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is strong as Bruce Wayne. I really like him. You feel like there's that mystery to him, but he's also very confident. And having Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, very strong performance as well. She is so good as Catwoman, and Danny DeVito is terrifying the look-wise as the Penguin. At times it's a little bit goofy, and you don't feel like he's the strongest person to compete with the Batman. He makes some odd choices and isn't so confident within himself, but I like that distinct style. The film feels very grimy. I like the approach to Gotham, even if it feels like it's on a closed set. With having two villains, you had a nice balance to them with Catwoman and Penguin. They played off of each other very well and tested Batman. It's a strong superhero film, and I really like it now after getting away from my fears of seeing Danny DeVito as a child. Coming in number 4, Batman. Jack Nicholson is amazing as the Joker. He's able to bring a lot of different styles from the Joker to this movie. You feel like he is that crime boss, but you also feel that he is more theatric and over the top, and he's able to just have certain styles pop throughout this movie, and it leads to a lot of confrontation between him and Batman and a lot of intense moments. I love the progression of the Joker within here and seeing how Bruce Wayne is up to that challenge. A lot of Tim Burton's style is very apparent within this film. The look of Gotham, the look of the Joker, and the Batman and the Batcave all really stands out as Tim Burton. Coming at number 3, Edward Scissorhands. Edward Scissorhands, and a lot of other Tim Burton films, he's able to take a character that is broken, a character that many people just don't understand. And with that, he's able to bring this character that many people fear because of his hands, and he doesn't fully understand why. And throughout this film, you get connected to Edward, and it leads to a very emotional end to the film. Danny Elfman's score is terrific in here. All the movies with Danny Elfman and Tim Burton, his score really stands out as one of the best things of this movie. But I love that contrast of Edward, more of the dark colors, black and white, and then you have a lot of vibrant colors in here as well. The houses and all of the people's outfits, they stand apart from each other, but they complement each other within this film. Johnny Depp gives a very subtle performance, but you're able to feel the emotion from him throughout this movie without him actually saying a lot. When people start to target Edward, you feel the fear that he has for this community, the anger as well, the sadness. You're able to feel all of that with a very subtle performance from Johnny Depp. One of his better Tim Burton roles. I really like the look of this movie, how emotional it was, that personal look of Edward, and Tim Burton taking on a character that people fully don't understand and trying to have an understanding of them is a very simple approach for this movie, but it's one of its highlights. Coming in at second place, Beetlejuice. I really like this movie. It's odd, it's bizarre, and it's got that chaotic energy throughout. Even though Beetlejuice doesn't appear to like the first 45 minutes of the film, but it's able to supplement the beginning of this film with a lot of interesting things and likable characters. But once you get Beetlejuice full on within this film, that's where all the weirdness comes out with the songs and Michael Keaton's really over-the-top performance. I really liked all of that. The lead up to Beetlejuice and that fear that the characters feel, you start to anticipate that, and it just builds throughout. It's it's hilarious throughout this movie, and it's got that such a distinct style to it. It's gross at times, it's gothic looking, it's got that classic like monster look to it all. And Beetlejuice has a lot of scenes that stand as the most memorable moments for a Tim Burton film. I've watched it many times, and that's probably why I was so disappointed with Beetlejuice. But the original film, I love it. I love Michael Keaton in here. I love the score, the weirdness to the set, and all of the characters and the dancing scenes and the music in here. It all stands out. It's very chaotic, but it works. But coming in first place, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I absolutely love this movie. I have watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure so many times. I feel like Willy Wonka and Pee-wee's Big Adventure are the two films I have seen the most recently. I've seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure so many times this year, and it's quickly become one of my all-time favorite films. I even have a tattoo of Pee-wee in that tequila scene at the bar. I love Paul Reubens as Pee-wee and this zany adventure he goes on to just get his bike. It's a very simple adventure of him trying to find his bike, but it takes these weird turns throughout, and the scenes are brief, but you see the characters that he meets along the way and the relationships that he develops. And if he looked over to the right, he might see his bike on a truck. And that's what's the fun of it all, is that it's a very simple journey for him to find the bike, but it goes on all these weird adventures and you're able to meet different characters. Me and my kids have quoted Pee-wee all this summer, and I absolutely love just the character of Pee-wee and how fun he is within this film, and just the adventure that he goes on. He's able to meet different characters. It's hilarious throughout. I love the simplicity to this movie and the adventure that he goes on, and how other people are so attached to Pee-wee and see how likable he is. Even the bikers, after he knocks over all of their bikes and goes on that tequila dance and gets everybody so excited. I love all of that within here. This is Tim Burton's first film and my favorite Tim Burton film. He understood how to approach the character of Pee-wee and bring him from the show into this movie and have him go on this adventure and just be very simple but endearing as well, and have so much fun with it. The other Pee-wee films haven't been nearly as good as this movie. I love watching it, how quick the pace is and how the scenes just move so quick throughout, and you're able to get new characters and new situations with Pee-wee along the way. I absolutely love Pee-wee. Even when I did a previous ranking video, I had Pee-wee as my number one. So I have loved Pee-wee for many years, and it's one of my all-time favorite films and my favorite Tim Burton movie. So there you guys have it. All 20 Tim Burton films ranked worst to best. How would you rank them? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming ranking videos like this. My name is Just Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.